Guys, so I did my ESL lesson for beginners, and it's for a kindergarten classroom, so all the students are 4 and 5. And they all have different first languages, so the majority of them have Spanish as their first language. So to start, I reviewed a chapter in a textbook about teaching young learners, chapter 35. And this talked about using a variety of techniques while you're teaching the young learners. So I have a lot of movements that they go through, songs for them, and we use a lot of visuals, and they're brightly colored and vibrant so that they can connect them to their own experiences. It's for kindergarten. These students have a lot of energy, so I really like the movements because this way they can get up and move around the classroom and use their energy in a constructive manner and actually participate in the lesson instead of using their energy when they get bored to just bug the person next to them. I also did some research online when I was looking for the vocabulary and different motions for their vocabulary, and I found that commonly when you're teaching ESL and you have a homogeneous classroom, like they all have the same first language, then you would use that first language signs for those words. So like if you're teaching a class in Japan, then you would use Japanese sign language for those words. I used ASL because the students didn't all have the first language. So for example, if it's cloudy, then the students do cloudy, and they learn the motion with the word. And I really like this because that way if a student happens to forget the word and they can't think of what they were trying to say, I don't have to immediately just give them the correct answer. I can just, as the teacher, give them the motion, and then the student can remember that they did that motion with a word, and then hopefully they remember that word and be able to give the correct answer. So it's just a little hint without giving them the answer. So, summary of my lesson. I start after all the students are on the carpet and we've already started the day. I start by introducing the new vocabulary to the students. So that would be sunny and cloudy and raining and snowing and windy. I'm going over those 5 weather words, and then I show them a picture. So a picture of the sun for sunny, and I say the word and I do the gesture while I'm saying the word. And then I go around the circle and let each student really look at the picture and do the motion and say the word. After, we all do choral responses, and we go through this with each of the vocabulary words, and we do that multiple times. And after that, we do a video on how's the weather, and we watch that, and then we sing a song about how's the weather. It's just asking how's the weather, and then the students have to respond with it's sunny, it's rainy, it's cloudy, and they have to do the motions, and we would do that multiple times just to really get that form of question and response into their head. And after the video and the song, I would ask them to give me a choral response of how's the weather, and then for certain students, if they are really have it down, then I would let them do individual responses. And I would just switch the order of the vocabulary, so there's not always, oh, it's sunny, then it's windy, then it's rainy. I would switch it up so that they can't just memorize the order. Finally, we would go and play a game. So I would put the different weather cards that I had in different areas of the classroom. So it would be rainy in one area, and it would be snowy in one area, and cloudy in another, etc. And then the students would have to ask me, the teacher, how's the weather? And I would respond with, it's windy. And then we would all walk over to the section where it's windy, and then the students would say it's windy again. And then they would ask, how's the weather? And I would say a different weather word, and they would have to go over there. For the first couple of rounds, the teacher would walk with the students so they could get it down. And then after that, just the students would walk. To conclude the lesson, I would call them all back to the carpet, and I would point outside and ask, how's the weather? And we would talk about what the weather was like outside that day. And we had already learned hot and cold and stuff in previous lessons, so we would incorporate that. In the consecutive days, when they all came in and we started our morning circle time, we would now have a weather chart, and we would go over the weather for that day. So I would ask, how's the weather? And out the window, and the students would have to say what the weather was like for that day, and if it was sunny, we would put a little sun on our board, and if it was cloudy, we would put a cloud on our board. That's just a way to continue reviewing the vocabulary with the students and ensure that they actually did learn this vocabulary and can relate it to their experiences. So that was my lesson on the weather, and it introduces the 5 most common weather words for the students, which was sunny, cloudy, windy, rainy, and snowy. And it goes over the simple question and response. How's the weather? And it's snowy, it's windy. So it's vocabulary that they will need to use in their life and that they will be conversing. And we will just constantly be reviewing and having little conversations with that in my classroom.